In an era of college basketball where the players come and go seemingly by the year, coaches have never been more important. So we decided at Big East Beat it was time to take a look at the coaching performances. To this point, we're evaluating just 2025, 2026. We're going to rank them throughout the Big East, who's done the best job and who's underachieved. It's all coming up next on Big East Beat. And hi, everybody. Welcome to Big East Beat. We are part of the Big East Energy Network. I'm Matt Janis, host of the Holy Nova podcast, alongside my normal co-host, Brian Webster from Pirate Vibes. We've kicked David White out tonight. He put it in his deal. He can't do more than a couple podcasts per week. But we brought in a little coaching muscle. Casey Matthews from the Roll Jays podcast joins us. He's going to bring a little expertise to our Big East coach rankings debate. Casey, can't thank you enough for being here.
I'm thanking you guys. I tell you guys all the time, I watch this show every week. I love this show. And so I've been bugging Brian for weeks now to get on. So I think it's a good topic. It's one I'd like to talk about as coaching. So I think it's going to be a great show. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, Casey, you're just at home here, right? You got the professional voice of Matt, right? You usually work with Jimmy, and then you got a kid from Meriden that can talk about UConn a little bit. Meriden, Connecticut, just like Mark Zanetto. So you should be at home. You should be absolutely perfect.
I feel very comfortable. Today. Maybe I'll get to actually make a point or two in this show. We'll see. I don't know.
I tell you what, though, you're buttering us up with the compliments. We understand what you're trying to do. That is not going to work. We understand your debate techniques right away. So here's what we got going. Coaching ranks inside the Big East for what you've done this year. That's what we're going to talk about a little bit later in the show. Yes, you might have career accomplishments, but we're focused on the present, the here and now, as we break down this season. But first, this is a big night inside the Big East. What a game. Seton Hall and St. John's. Talk about it going back and forth. I guess the best place to start here will go to Casey. Did St. John's win that game, or did Seton Hall lose it?
Yeah, man, I wish I would have known that question was coming, because that's a really good way to look at this one. I'm gonna say St. John's won it, and my rationale is this: like, yes, Seton Hall was up big. I mean, I think it was up to 15, maybe even 17 at one point. So they really had control of the game, and I've been, as a Creighton guy, I've been on the other side of that, where we were up big and let Seton Hall back in it. And for me, that was a game where we lost it. To me, Seton Hall didn't change the way they were playing. I think St. John's really upped their intensity. I felt like Dylan Mitchell was outstanding tonight, especially in that second half. So to me, they really took that game. And I think you also got to tip your cap a little bit to that home crowd. I think the home crowd was a factor as well. So I'm going to go with St. John's won that one. What did you think, Matt? Did you get a chance to watch some of it?
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. It was definitely impressive the way that St. John's turned up the defensive intensity in that second half. That was the team I was anticipating coming into the year, that I thought we would see that all season long. And that for whatever reason, that defensive acumen had disappeared up until this point. But they've been getting better and better. They had been getting timely stops. Now in the second half, they went to full-on shutdown mode. And yet, I have to look at the bottom of the screen and my Pirate Vibes friend and be honest, I really thought, as impressive as that was from St. John's in the second half, Seton Hall, 22 points after intermission. That was not pretty, Brian. I mean, how do you explain yourself?
It's honestly been the story all season. They can't score. Like, they just don't have a guy. Like, every team's got a guy. They have Zuby. They have, you said, Dylan Mitchell. Name one guy that you're scared of offensively on Seton Hall. You can't.
I thought you had Bud Clark and we don't.
Bud Clark is great, but he's not a pure offensive player, though. Like,
I agree, but you've been telling me all year long how valuable he is.
But he goes 0 for 7 tonight, right? With 2 assists and 2 turnovers. Like,
yeah, it wasn't very good.
You're not going to win that.
It's funny you're saying that, though. It's funny, Brian. Sorry to cut you off, but it's funny you say that because we recorded the Big East Weekly this morning, and I said the same thing. My issue with Seton Hall is that they don't have a player that to me is great. Yeah. And I think in this league, you have to have a player that is great and that can take over a game offensively. I don't necessarily even know, like, and I'm not just picking on Seton Hall. That to me is one weakness that Creighton has as well. Austin Swartz has sort of taken that mantle, and he's had 27 and 33-point nights, but then he's also had 4 and 5-point nights. Yeah. So to me, to be able to compete with the best teams in this league, you have to have somebody that is great. And that to me that's a glaring weakness for me. For Seton Hall.
It definitely is. And we talked about this on Power Vibes. This was the perfect game for Seton Hall to win, right? If they were going to win, it was going to have to turn ugly, and it's got to stay below 70. We used the number 74. The over and under was 145, right? It didn't even come close. It did not even come close. We talked about tempo. It was a slower game. It was an old school Big East battle, and Seton Hall just couldn't figure out enough offense. And you guys, I know you guys know this, but I was coaching basketball for most of the first half, so I only saw the collapse in great detail.
You saw the important parts.
I saw the part that hurts me right in the heart. But it is what it is. I really think the great start made us all believe that Seton Hall was legit, but they're really a bubble team. And we'll get to it with the coaching. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm not going to spoil it anymore, but this is a disappointing loss because they could have won this one. It wasn't like the UConn one where they're down by 16 or even the Creighton one, right? I didn't expect we were up by 15. A defensive team should be able to put this team away, and they just couldn't. So it is what it is. We move on. They've already doubled their wins since last year.
No. We're not going there. No. You did that via text message after the loss earlier in the weekend. You're not going to just dismiss it through what we've already done. I'm not letting you go there. I will say this for Seton Hall. This game was played in exactly the style they needed in order to win it, and they didn't win it. That's concerning. That's something they're going to have to get figured out moving forward. That kind of rocks you to the core of your program. But for St. John's, I don't know what you guys thought. I thought Dylan Mitchell, his stats were impressive at 17 and 11, but I thought when you watched that game, it kind of felt like he was even more impactful than the stats would indicate. And him going into the starting lineup, it's pretty clear that's the demarcation point for St. John's season. But tonight, it was kind of emblematic of that change because as he turned it on in the second half, St. John's looked like a completely different team.
I totally agree. It's another thing we talked about on our show earlier. I think he is the difference in this. I don't even know if you can call it a turnaround. I mean, I know they dropped that one to Providence, but there are other losses.
It's a wake up. It's a wake up. They just woke up.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying this for months, and I've been very consistent with this. This is the time of year where I felt like we were going to see St. John's round into form and really see who they are. Admittedly, I won't be the guy that pretends and just twists words to where I'm never wrong. I'm wrong plenty. I was wrong in terms of I thought St. John's would end up being better than UConn this year towards the end of the season. I don't feel the same way anymore.
Agreed.
But 2 weeks ago, I was shocked at how I felt about St. John's. Now I feel like, okay, they're going to be close to as good as I thought they were going to be. They're just not going to be quite as good. Like tonight, to me, like you can't play this kind of game tonight if you're going to dominate this league like I thought they would. To score 65 points, and I know Seton Hall's fantastic defensively, but still at home, 65 points. Like I think you got to. I don't know. They're still leaving me desiring more, but the way they've improved. To me, I just think you got to tip your cap to Coach P. I think he's unbelievable.
Speaking of being wrong, one other game in the Big East on Tuesday night.
Come on, Matt, you got to explain yourself because I know this is your side team here.
Yeah, I've been driving the DePaul bus. I do believe at this point I've become an honorary member of the DePaul. I am on texting friends with the host, and at one point. I was about ready to text him saying, we're here, guys. It's ready. It's DePaul's time into that early portion of the second half. And then what had been such an improved DePaul defensive team completely collapsed in the second half. Casey, you've been there as a coach before. You've gone through these stretches where you just can't get yourself out of it, and yet it's still hard to explain what the heck happened to the Blue Demons over those final 18 minutes.
So listen, this is going to sound like a cop-out, like I'm trying to give DePaul an excuse, but I'm not. Hinkle is truly magical.
Are they sure that the baskets are only 10 feet and the foul line's only 15 feet away? Because I don't believe it. I think Gene Hackman messed up the math.
I've been on the wrong side of that too many times. I don't even know. I think I was lucky enough to win there against Butler once. We beat Ohio there to go to the Sweet 16. And they got pounded by Gonzaga. But that building has, I've got some great memories and some really bad memories in that building. And tonight, Chris Holtman and his crew are on the way home, and they've got a bad one in their memory bank. And it happens. Finley Bizjack was unbelievable. I think he had 18 in the second half. He really took over that game for Butler. And Michael Ajayi was fantastic as well. I think he had 17. I just think whenever you're going to that building, you do have to be prepared to play for 40, and doesn't matter. And they never got up. I don't know what was their biggest lead. It wasn't anything crazy, was it?
I think it was 9.
Maybe
was that?
Yeah, I was going to say 9. But it just felt like, okay, like DePaul's the better team, the better team. And they were going to win this one. And then the second half happened. And, I've been really critical of Butler. I still am going to be really critical of Butler. I still don't think they're very good. But to me, and this is just another example of it, Butler can be a good basketball team, but they have to have both of their guys play well. I've said this to Mark on our weekly show. That to me is why I just will never buy stock in this team, because they have to have both of their guys play well to win. And I don't think you can say that about I don't think you can say that about Villanova. I don't think you can say that about UConn or St. John's. Those teams have multiple guys. Butler has to have those two guys. And so, but tonight, they're good. First time, how about this one? The first time they've won 2 Big East games in a row since February of last year.
That's not great.
Not great. And it was like early February too. So it wasn't like it was like February 30th or that doesn't happen February 28th. How about that one? Can you edit that, Brian? February 30th. God, first time on the show and I'm making just absolute blunders. But yeah, so it's impressive for them. I truly am. Like I want to see, like I don't have any ill will towards Butler. I just don't think they're very good. But good, good for them. Tough night for DePaul though, because I think they were riding pretty high on life.
It was an opportunity to go on by the wayside. And you figure if you're DePaul, you're going to lose a game like that on the road when your offense struggles. That's been their bugaboo the last year and a half. When they struggle, the offense doesn't show. The offense was fine tonight. Defense was non-existent. And you are 100% right about being kind of a two-man show for the Bulldogs. But give Robinson credit. Came up with some timely buckets in that game as well. And just to get a third guy into double figures was a big deal for Thad Matta's team. And it's something to build on. They're starting to crawl their way back, which I'm sure we will discuss as we talk about the coaching rankings coming up. But first, it is time to talk. Normally, this is where I get up on my soapbox. I do some complaining, old man yell at the moon situation. I do have some college sports issues. I don't know if you've been paying attention to college football, but if Duke loses that case where they signed a contract and the quarterback is able to get out of it a couple weeks later, we're all done in college sports. But that's another day's problem, because right now I am a happy person. This show is debuting on Wednesday. Tonight, I am taking my 5-year-old son to his first ever Villanova men's basketball game. I'm taking him with my father, who brought me to so many Villanova games over the years. We were season ticket holders when I was growing up. That's where my love of Villanova came from. We went to the Sweet 16 and Elite Eights, both of the years they won the national championship. Great trips, father and son as adults. And now we're kind of bringing the next generation in. Very excited about it, and wanted to kind of pick your guys' brain of, do you remember the first game that you ever attended in terms of a major college basketball event? Because the memories just flood back to me, and I want to see if it's something that my son will remember someday.
Brian, you go first.
So the first game I went to, I grew up in Connecticut. I saw UConn play Fairfield. This is
Humdinger of a game.
What's that?
Humdinger of a game. UConn
Yeah.
Fairfield.
It was a blowout. I remember it was a blowout. I remember Kate George was on the team. That was their miraculous season. And my dad wanted me to be a UConn fan. He just kept it. He still sends me. I can pull out shirts from my closet that say "Home is where the heart is," and it's a UConn symbol in the middle of Connecticut, almost like Mark's logo, right? Like, so he just tried to brainwash me right then and there. And then I saw Terry DeHare, and I was like, no, I like this guy, and that's how I became Seton Hall. But my first game, it was awesome. It was the band was there. It was at the Harvard Civic Center, XL Center, People's Bank, whatever you want to call it. That arena, the old Whalers Arena. And it was just a magical moment, and I just loved it. And I've gone to Boston College. I've seen all the major schools up north.
Connie that's a different place to see a basketball game.
Yeah.
It looks so much nicer on TV, doesn't it?
It does. But yeah, I just fell in love with college basketball right then and there. And I can thank my dad to that. I brought my son to his first college basketball game. It was actually a women's college basketball game this year. He's 7, and we sat right behind Tony Bozzella, and he shook Tony Bozzella's hand, and the trainer's basically sitting on our lap the entire time. So my son thought it was awesome, a 7-year-old, and doing all his little dances and all that kind of stuff. So it's great to pass it along. But what about you, Casey? You've been all over the map with this college basketball.
I've been to a few games. Early though, it's funny. I didn't get into college basketball until I was in high school. So I was born in Miami, Florida, and I was a Heat. Like I was a Bulls fan because they were winning, and I was young, and that's how you do it, right? But I've
always knew there was something about you that was a little front runnerish. I always sensed that from you.
I think it's fair in that, but I'm also a Dolphins fan. So I think I could push back a little bit.
Got some punishment, yeah.
Yeah. But so I went to some Heat games as a kid. I don't remember the first one I ever went to, but I do remember college basketball. My dad took me when we moved to North Carolina when I was in high school, and a little before high school. But my dad took me to the NCAA tournament. It was in Greenville, South Carolina, I believe. So we went down there. I grew up or kind of lived in Asheville, North Carolina for a while. It's only an hour away. So we went down there and went to the NCAA tournament. And it was like we watched Duke play and we watched Carolina play. They were both number 1 seeds that year. So that was awesome. But so that was my first memory doing that. And then getting into the coaching side, it was cool because my dad started to follow whatever team I was working on at the time. And I'll still get random texts about Creighton, and he loves Trey Alexander. I think Trey Alexander was his favorite player that I ever got to coach. So, but then the year that, sorry, Brian, to bring this up, the year that Creighton won their share of the Big East Championship, we beat Seton Hall at home. My dad was here. Both my daughters were alive, and they're young, but they're alive. So they were there with my dad and my wife to watch us win a championship. And that was one of the coolest memories of my life. So I will say this. I don't know, Matt, I don't know if your son will remember this game. I don't know that, but I know he will remember being with dad and doing something cool. So that's awesome, man. What a cool topic.
Yeah, I remember first of all, the one time I went to Greenville was we were supposed to go to Greenville, South Carolina. I did not realize there was a Greenville, North Carolina and a Greenville, South Carolina, and I didn't put it right into the GPS. And I was doing a game. It was at East Carolina, and I drove to the wrong city. So it was quite a stressful little stretch there. Fortunately, we went down the day before, but that's quite a ways out of the way if you're familiar with that area.
You drove to Greenville, South Carolina?
Yeah, I went the wrong place.
It's got a great downtown, though. Greenville, South Carolina's got a great downtown.
But that's so far. That's right so far from Greenville.
So, yeah,
the length of North Carolina.
That's like Dumb and Dumber when they
in my defense,
the wrong exit.
It was the Garmin. It was the Garmin days. It wasn't like just put it into your phone. This was a long time ago. But yes, it was not a good when we realized that we had gone to the wrong place, and that's like 5 hours that we drove out of our way. Not good times. But so that's my Greenville memory. But I used to, before we got season tickets at the then DuPont Pavilion, that's how far I go back. They changed the name because obviously the tragedy where, he committed the murder of the former wrestler. But at the time, it was named the DuPont Pavilion. But before that, Villanova, and they still do, would play a series of games in Philadelphia at the downtown or at the South Philly Arena. Back then, it was the Spectrum. And so it would be Georgetown, St. John's, and Syracuse every year. And then there would be a fourth game, Pittsburgh, when Pitt was good. UConn wasn't really all that good yet, so they were rarely involved. But, whoever the fourth best team coming into the year was, it would be. And we would always sit up top. And then I remember one time, this is my first real memory, and it's funny what sticks out in your mind. If you remember the old arenas, when they would move them from hockey to basketball, where the student section would sit now right behind the basket, they wouldn't have any elevation in the seats behind. They would just literally put 15 rows of tickets behind. It used to be the students, and then the students complained. And so then they started selling them at a premium rate. And my dad said, let's get these tickets. He bought us these tickets, and he brought his 6-year-old son. And we were in the sixth row, which seemed like they were going to be great seats. Could not see a thing the entire time because you're literally just flat with the people in front of you, 6 rows back. Ended up watching it on one of those little square things in the Spectrum. And I just remember my dad bribing the usher to get us seats somewhere else where we could actually watch the game. And he was so apologetic. And it's still now the thing I remember most from my childhood. It was so much fun. I think we were in 6 different seats because the usher that he bribed would, as soon as somebody came to use those seats, have to move us somewhere else. And I just thought it was the funnest game of musical chairs I could ever remember. So it is weird, the stuff that sticks out in your mind, isn't it?
What's the best environment, not including when you're coaching, Casey, that you've been a part of? Matt,
not including coaching?
Not with you not announcing and without you coaching. Yeah. What was the best environment? Because I remember being – yeah, go ahead.
I got to go – oh, sorry. I this one's easy for me. Yeah. So Doc Sadler, I worked for him at Southern Miss, still really close with him. He's like a mentor to me. He's on the staff at Kansas, still on the staff. I think this might be his last season. Whenever he went back to – because he's been on the Kansas staff twice now. He's really close to Coach Self. So when he got my first year out of coaching, we played there at Fog, but we played during COVID. So it was different. I always wanted to go see a game there. So he brought me down. I stayed with him for the weekend. He took me to Houston at Kansas, and it was absolutely I still have videos of – I've been to obviously a lot of college basketball games. By a mile, this was the best. And then I have another friend on Kansas State staff. So Kansas played at Kansas State 2 nights later on Big Monday. So I drove over. It's only about an hour away, stayed with him, and went to that game that night. And that was probably the second best environment I'd ever been in. It was unbelievable. If you ever get a chance, if you're watching the show, you love college basketball, get to Fog for a game. It is worth whatever you have to pay to get in. It is worth it. It's amazing.
That's awesome. Matt, how about you?
I'll go a few then too, if you'll give me the benefit of the doubt. The first time I ever got to the Palestra, my mind was blown. That place is so loud. It's just so ridiculous. And for an 8-year-old kid, it was a holy war against St. Joe's. It was just, I just screamed. I couldn't talk for a couple days afterwards. I just screamed my head off. It was so much fun. Villanova lost, and I left there saying, I need to go to every holy war the rest of my life. Now have very little interest in going to the Holy War anymore. It's amazing how college sports have changed. Then number 2 would be the current Big East tournament is incredible. The old Big East tournament, though, when you added in Syracuse there and you had Nova, Syracuse, St. John's, and UConn all going in the same quarterfinal session. Got that one time we used to go every year, and one time it was those 4 teams in the combo. Talk about a place that was just a bunch of drunk guys coming home from work and stopping off at the Garden. That was unreal. My mind was blown when I saw that combination. But the atmosphere that will always stick with me was, when I grew up, it was the end of the Raleigh era when I first started going to the games, and they were struggling. And then Lapis took over, and it got off to a little bit of a slow start. And then they went on a 10-game winning streak in 94. And it was culminated with number 3 UConn coming into the then DuPont Pavilion. And we sat. My dad got these tickets from work, and they were technically general admission, but essentially we sat in the student section. My dad was relatively young, so he blended in enough, and then I just kind of was along for the ride. And we sat in the student section, and Eric Ebers made a 3 to go up by 2 with 4 seconds left, and they called timeout. They come down, and right before they shot the ball, this guy tells my dad, "You better grab him." I'm 9 years old, weighed probably 57 pounds at the time. Duran Sheffer fires up a 3. It misses. I'm jumping up and down. Next thing I know, my dad grabs him by the nape of the neck, and whoosh, everybody rushes the floor. And if he hadn't grabbed me, if that guy hadn't mentioned it to my father, who was lost in his own happiness of Villanova finally getting this win, I would have 100% gotten trampled, and I would not be here on the Big East Energy Network. Whoever, there was like a guardian angel, whoever mentioned that to my old man, because neither one of us thought of it. I hadn't even occurred to me, and I'd have been down for the count.
That's awesome.
Wow. That's a heck of a story. Where's the game? Story. Where's the game tomorrow?
At the Finn.
Okay. I love that place. So I know some people don't think it's as good anymore. I'll tell you why. I have nothing but bad memories there. So, but it's an unbelievable place. So that'll be a great time. What a story.
Brian, what's yours? You got your memory?
Yeah, mine's not as impressive as you guys, but MSG, and I saw Utah in like the preseason NIT. This had to be like 2001, 2002. And it was Bob Knight versus Rick Majerus, and they were coaching. Awesome. Yeah, that was the highlight for me. And I know I was 21, so it was probably 2003. But I got liquored up and started screaming at Bob Knight and everything. I was rooting for Utah just because anti-Bob Knight. But yeah, that's mine.
No, that's cool. I'm disappointed you guys won't be there this year.
I didn't plan it. Like I was just in New York City that day. And I was like, hey, this is
kind of
cool. And, it was Utah and Indiana, and they weren't selling out a preseason NIT. So it was cool.
Yeah. Well, I'm pissed you guys won't be at MSG this year for the tournament. I know you guys have to – you got to work. I get it. But
the CAA women's tournament, we used to go every year with my dad. And the first year I started working it was when Alan Ray – I don't remember if you guys remember that, when he got his eye poked out from his socket. My father still went, and I'm doing a game, and I get a text message. Is Alan Ray's eye okay? And I didn't understand what that meant as I was in the middle of a broadcast, not paying attention to the Villanova game. And then I just followed up with a question mark, and he said, it looked like he got his eye poked out. And I was like, what in the world happened at Madison Square Garden? So that was the pre-Twitter era. So you had to go figure out what the heck was going on. So, I admit, there's nothing, you can't beat the Garden. All right, I'm excited just thinking about it. Appreciate you guys letting me talk about that. And as we shift gears to talk about our top coaching performances in the Big East for this year, I want to first thank our friends at Home Field Apparel. You see that beautiful old school Blue Jay on your screen, and it gives us an opportunity to thank Home Field Apparel for their support of the Big East Energy Network. They are a proud supporter of us, help us get in front of more Big East fans, and they provide the absolutely best combo of throwback gear that looks old but has all the comfort of modern amenities. And Casey, we were talking about it last week. There's not many bad throwback logos in this conference, but Creighton's is sneaky good.
Yeah, it is a cool. The bird, like whenever it's the actual old Billy Blue Jay, people love it. I like what you just said. Is like old logos. It looks. It's like it's weird. Like it looks old and feels old in a way because of how soft their stuff is, but it doesn't feel like tattered and like gross. Like you could be proud to wear it, but inside, like, gosh, I could go to bed and sleep in this too, so I do think they have some good stuff. But yeah, the logos are cool. I was looking through all the Big East teams. I hadn't even seen some of those old classic logos before. So it made me feel like I'm not as quite a Big East fan as I really am, but yeah, they do a heck of a job. I'm excited. I think they have some new stuff coming out here in like 3 weeks. Yeah. So I'm excited to see what they drop. So yeah, definitely appreciate the Home Field and their sponsorship.
I just got my shirt in the mail.
Yeah, you wore it on the Pirate Vibes yesterday.
I did. Good. I did. I didn't want to wear it again, so people think that's all I wear. But Tim got his and Pat got his, so we're gonna slowly release those. So
that's awesome.
I love it. Like you said, it's soft. It doesn't feel cheap at all. Like it's quality, and it's tough finding Seton Hall stuff in South Georgia. So it's great to have that variety that you could probably get in New Jersey, but in South Georgia.
Well, you find it right on the link that we will put in the description below. They'll take you to all the stuff. Make sure you can check it out by school, by sport, whatever it may be. And it doesn't just have to be a Big East school. They've got you covered across the board. And it looks old, feels new. Greatest combination you could possibly ask for. Speaking of old and new, there's a good mix in terms of coaches in the Big East this year. We've got a lot of old guys. We've got a lot of up-and-comers. And it is kind of going through who has done the best job this year. We're not talking about career accomplishments. Rick Pitino may be the GOAT, but what has he done for you lately? We're going to let you know what we think as we go through these rankings. We polled the entire Big East Energy Network staff. We went to all of our hosts. We asked them to give us 1 through 11 who has done the best job this year. We compiled those votes. We put together these rankings. So we're going to unveil them now, discuss what we think, who's too high, who's too low, who has done just a terrible job, who has overachieved. And then at the end, we'll unveil ours. We're also going to kind of let you know where we think the biggest divergence has been from their overall career performance to what they've done this year, both the good and, sorry, Casey, we're going to have to talk about the bad as well. I know that goes against your nice Midwestern values.
That's okay. I'll find a way.
He said he was from Miami. So.
But once you've been in the Midwest as long, it's Midwest nice, Brian. We got to get you out here to check it out.
He came to Philly the other day and he said, "What is this city? I can't be here anymore." He tapped out.
No, I did. I did. I took the train down to meet Matt, and I'm standing there like we got people screaming at each other, about to fight each other on the subway, and I mean. I've seen it before, but I'm like, gosh, I'm spoiled in Omaha. So
I picked a day right after the Eagles lost in the playoffs. It was not a good day to come to Philadelphia. Plenty of good days in around the city of Philadelphia for number one on our list. Kevin Willard getting the top spot. He comes over all the controversy in the offseason that followed him from Maryland, the way that process went, leaving Big Ten program, coming back to his home in the Big East. His return so far has been a success, and by our Big East Energy crew, he has done the best job so far this year. Brian, you get so mad at everybody, no matter who's on this show. You say it's just a Villanova love fest, Big East beat. Well, you know what? You voted Willard higher than me, my friend.
Yeah, so Willard got 2 first-place votes and only 1 third-place vote, so he doesn't have the most first-place votes, but he ended up number 1 anyway because he's consistently in the top 2. This guy, the thing about here with Willard is that he took over a program late, right? Got the job a little later, so he had to get in the portal, and he's been able to do great work with this team. This team has until St. John's got a little hot. Villanova has been considered the second-best team, I would say, in the conference from the start of the season. Hasn't had 2 losses in a row, right? It's still not 2, right? He still hasn't had 2 losses in a row. He's the chiropractor, right? As Rothstein, he makes adjustments. And I love Kevin Willard. Matt, I know you wanted me to say that right off the bat. I love Kevin Willard, and I think he's a great hire to Villanova. And like the thing with the traditional Catholic schools in the Big East, like you have to fit into their culture too. And he has hit the ground running with that. And I think the sky's the limit with Kevin Willard there. So I love him at number 1. You guys did not have him at number 1. I will say Casey was higher than Matt. So we'll let Casey go first.
Yeah, I have him at number 2. And for me, I could understand the argument for number 1. I can. I mean, we're kind of splitting hairs with a lot of these arguments, but for me, the reason why I ranked him so high, yes, they've been really good, but he took over the program so late and had to scrap together a team. And I think that hitting on Bryce Lindsey and him being able to come to this league and still perform, I think is really impressive. Obviously, Caden is just a stud. I love his game. and I think he's just exactly what they need. He's the perfect point guard for Kevin Willard and for that system. But when you look at some of their metrics, they're 4th offensively, 6th defensively. So like, it's not a team like for there was a stretch there where defensively there was some work to be done. And I feel like that's what we've seen with this team is they're trending up for me. And I haven't seen dips. Like, I feel like they've been pretty consistent. And to have a brand new team like that, not only team, but for him being new to that program, I just have to say, I think he's done a phenomenal job. So I don't know if I explained it well enough, but I think he's just the way he built that roster in that short amount of time. I don't know if you can say enough good things about him.
You're not going to hear me say anything bad about him from what he has done so far this year. I mean, from where Villanova fans were, the dream that was having Jay Wright represent your program for the 2 decades that he did, just everything you could possibly want. Local guy, talked exponentially about how wonderful the program was, how high the expectations and ceiling could be, what it meant to him, what he did for the community, what he did in terms of the outreach to bring the city, which has notoriously not been the biggest Villanova backers in the world, on board to bring all the alums and get them feeling like it was one happy family, and then to just have it abruptly end. And then Kyle Neptune, who was pressed into a situation he wasn't ready for, really rough 3 years, new era of college basketball. You start to wonder, can Villanova get this back? It's still a question. I mean, they're nowhere near where they were in the Jay Wright Halcyon days, and yet for him to be able to right the ship proverbially as quickly as he has is nothing short of remarkable. To bring back 9% of the scoring from a year ago is certainly a testament for his ability to adjust on the fly. Now, I will say that the thing about Kevin Willard is, Caden Lewis kind of fell into his lap. That was a situation where he had recruited him at Maryland, couldn't land him when he was at Maryland. He goes to Kentucky. They kind of over-recruit him through the portal. So Caden decides he wants a new home. That works out nicely. You wonder where this team would be if it was not for Caden Lewis. So that's something that obviously was good fortune, but you got to make the most of your good fortune. The 2 question marks I have with Kevin Willard are, I love what he's doing with the Caden Lewis, but he better be right about that relationship with the Caden Lewis. It is a little nerve-wracking to see him kind of get banished for long stretches of games the way he has. And the body language, the bounce back each time has been fantastic, but it happened against BYU and it happened again against St. John's. We've seen it a few times over the course of the season where they've just kind of gone away from a Caden Lewis. There's not a lot of guys that would accept that. And it looks like Lewis has. But in this era of college basketball where everybody's a free agent each year, Willard's he has very good faith in that relationship. He knows the relationship that he has with his player, but he better be right about it because that's your building block moving forward. They don't have a tremendous recruiting class coming in, at least at this stage. They're going to be heavily reliant on the portal again next year. So as Lewis continues to evolve, I'm just interested to see. I don't mind sitting him down. In fact, I like it. I like that he's willing to coach him up. Mm-hmm. It's just a little concerning to see the banishment that happens from time to time in this area. It kind of gives you some trepidation of, is this going to be a okay long term? Trust Kevin Willard that he has his finger on the pulse, but it's one of those things where guys have been wrong before and he can't afford to be wrong. He's got to be able to get past the stage where you kind of have to go away from him in high leverage moments. You need him out there when you play the better teams because they have not faced the toughest of competition to this date. They got blown out by Michigan. They lost a close one to BYU. They really didn't play well for long stretches of the second half against St. John's. Impressive win against Wisconsin. Good win on the road at Seton Hall. That's pretty much it for their top 40 competition. Everything else has been teams ranked 41 to 250 in the country. Everybody gets wins against lesser teams. Villanova has a ton of them. So that's just why I didn't want to put him in the top couple of slots.
And you're confident he'll be back next year in terms of he won't put his name in the draft?
I don't think he's there yet. I think he needs to develop a jump shot before he becomes a pro. Like I think he has all the other. He's got to get better defensively, but pretty much the world has to get better defensively in this era of basketball. He doesn't have a consistent jump shot, and to be an NBA player, where you're going to leave early, I still think that he would benefit greatly from coming back one more year, continuing to kind of flush that out. I think he's a year away. We'll see what happens the last, 5-6 weeks of the season. But again, every time they have played against their best competition, didn't play a ton second half against Michigan. That game got away. Didn't play hardly at all the final 10 minutes against BYU. Didn't play at all the final 10 minutes except for when they got into foul trouble at the end of St. John's. That's not something you do to a guy that's about to go into the NBA draft, it seems like. I think Kevin Willard acknowledging there's still development to go, and I feel like Caden Lewis understands that as well.
Yeah. No, I think you're probably right. I mean, I think, one of the things with that, when you're talking about him in regards to accepting the coaching and being willing to just, even though the body language isn't necessarily great, he still goes back in the game and produces and plays hard. Like it's another testament to him, to Coach Willard to be able to do that. I'd also love to have more knowledge of the relationships with the rest of the staff. I thought that to me was one of the things that he did that I looked at whenever he came into Nova. I wanted to see like keeping Ashley Howard. To me now, and Kevin was he's no dummy. He's been around the league. He knows you don't keep Ashley Howard, you're going to have trouble in Philadelphia with recruiting. I felt like that was very smart, very wise move to keep him. And he assembled a good staff. Obviously, a lot of guys came over with him from Maryland. But anyway, we're getting off on a tangent. But I just the whole like from the recruiting session to now some of their non-conference wins, he's been really, really impressive.
Who would have thought the Holy Nova guy would be the lowest? And I'm the guy that's waxed poetic about him all year long. So that's a good sign for what Willard's been able to do. As we shift to the 2 slot in our poll, here's my number 1, Shaheen Holloway. I know it was a disappointment on Tuesday night what happened. I understand they don't look good offensively. But, guys, outside of Brian, I didn't know 15 people that thought that Seton Hall would finish outside of the basement in the Big East. And I'm pretty sure Brian was hoping more than thinking at this stage. I don't know how much that was a true belief, as much of it was, I think this is our year type of situation. He has rebuilt the culture after it seemed broken last year. He has won with, I don't think that's an overwhelmingly talented team. We kind of talked about it when we were discussing the game against St. John's. There's not a guy you point to that's on the scouting report that really strikes fear in an opponent. And yet, because of their synergy defensively, because of the metrics they've been able to put together, because of the way they take you out of system, they're winning games. And yes, they haven't played the best of competition either, but they got a couple good non-conference victories. They were very much in the game against UConn. They've been much more competitive against their top-tier opponents than even Villanova has so far this year. So it just, to me, it feels like, considering what we thought this team would be and what they are right now, even if they're starting to backslide a little, this is wildly impressive job from Hubble.
Yeah, I had him number 3 on my list, and I had Willard number 2 on my list. After tonight, I mean, this is 3 in a row, I believe, for Seton Hall. Like, I'd have to, I don't know. I'll stick with it because the only person I'd maybe move above would be Coach Pitino. But yeah, I mean, look, as a whole, he's done a phenomenal job. I think basically building a brand new roster, it's tough to do, especially with the amount of NIL funds that they have at their disposal. I think it's a factor, and he's done a phenomenal job. What I love about what he's done is I think he just said, you know what, I'm going to recruit guys that are going to play hard and that are going to play the way I want to play. And if they can't shoot, they can't shoot. But they're going to play hard and they're going to guard. And because that to me is who he was, and he's tough as nails as a human being, as a coach. And I think that his team, maybe more so than anybody in the conference, embodies him, and that is really impressive. So I do give him a lot of credit for what they did in the non-con. The conference season so far has been less than impressive, but overall, I think I picked them last or second. No, I think I picked them second to last in the preseason. So, he's done a phenomenal job. I do feel like and we talked about this. They're the number 2, I believe, defensive team in the conference, and they're the worst offensive team in the conference. They have the biggest delta in KenPom in the league. It's hard to be consistently good when you're consistently bad offensively. So, but all things considered, he's still not that upper tier for me for Coach of the Year. Go ahead, Brian. It's your time to shine.
So I had him the lowest.
Right.
So I had Shah third, the lowest out of anyone. Me and Casey were the ones that ranked him the lowest. I think they're right where I thought they were going to be. I predict them 8th. They're one game ahead of 8th place right now in the Big East. Even though the great start, they're one game away from DePaul and Xavier and Butler and all that. So I think they're right there. Everyone else in the world outside of Seton Hall fans thought that they were going to be pegged for 11th place because of last year. But he went out and got guys that, like Casey said, that fit him. And I think every single guy, he plays 10, 11 guys every single night. And some nights the 11th guy will have a top 5 in minutes. He'll have 28 minutes, and he'll play the hot hand. And all the guys have bought in. You haven't heard anyone complain about playing time. I think he's right there. It is it impressive nationally? Yes, I guess for people that don't really follow the team day in day out. But he's done a great job. He's done a good job. But I would put 2 guys in front of him. And that's just the way it is right now. But I love Shah. I absolutely love Shah. I love them as a player. I love everything about it. I love how they play. I wish my travel basketball teams and my girls rec ball teams would play defense.
I just think you're giving too much credence to the last 3 weeks and not enough credence to the big picture. And you're also
I'm a Seton Hall fan. I'm Seton Hall fan. So it's been an emotional ride the last 2
game via text message.
What's that?
You told me that there's a possibility they could lose out. At one point, you were so despondent the other day.
It's been an emotional 10 days. Like every game is this crazy comeback. It doesn't matter now. It happened to them. It's this crazy emotional roller coaster every single game. So as a fan, I might text uncontrollably, but I think he's done. I think it's what
point out the fact though that they lost close to UConn, razor thin to St. John's, and laid an egg, but ran into a bit of a buzzsaw against Villanova. They have played the top portion
and
of
Butler.
Add
the Butler loss. I think if the Butler win, I think I would be more uplifting here. But the Butler one kind of stung a little bit.
Brian, if I'm a Seton Hall fan, I'm watching for body language of their team because and I just trying to be fair and call balls and strikes. Like Shaheen's personality and the way he coaches can really wear on people and really grind on people. And now that you've lost 3 in a row, I think he really has to be careful, and he really has to fight against his tendency to. And again, maybe he won't. Maybe he'll say, "Screw it, I'm doubling down. I'm going to be hard as heck on these dudes." But it's 2026. Like, these are not the same kind of players that he was when he played, and they have options, and they can go make money other places. Like, I think he's got to be really careful that he doesn't. I don't want to say lose the team, because I don't think he'll lose the team. But if you go too negative right now, and really beat these guys down, it could be bad news. So. It's a very interesting time as a Seton Hall fan, I think, to see how Shaheen handles this adversity. 3 in a row, it sucks. I've been there, never as a head coach, but I've been there, and it's not fun. And you start to wonder, will I ever win another game? Like you in your text to Matt, will we ever win another game? And if you turn super, super negative, it can really be spell trouble. So it's a very interesting time for a Seton Hall fan.
They've got 3 winnable games here. They've got Marquette, they've got Xavier and DePaul this weekend. They should be able to bounce back before they take on Villanova and Creighton, which are the teams they're battling for that bubble position, I would say. So we'll see what it starts with DePaul, because DePaul is going to wants to play that ugly game too. So we'll see if they'll be able to turn around and eke out a win. And then Xavier is up and down. We'll get there, but Xavier's up and down. So I think the next 3 games will be very telling. How they end up January will be very telling for the whole season.
All right, let's go on to the next one. He is arguably the best coach.
First of all, I love this picture. I use this picture every time.
You do enjoy this. It is a sad Dan Hurley. It looks like the officials have just done something that have made him upset. His team maybe has done some things that have made him upset a little bit right now. You might be surprised to see him number 3 on the list, but remember the expectation's so high coming in, and a lot of people are of two minds with this UConn team. You look at the record, there's not a lot to be upset about. You look at some of the results. Is he a victim of his own success? Because it feels like, I don't want to say underachieving, but it feels like maybe they've left a little on the bone. Casey, you don't think so, though?
I had him number 1. And, and I know this network is somewhat of a UConn network still right now. We're hoping to change that over time and make it a little more even, but we'd love our UConn fans. Look, they're undefeated in the league. They've lost 1 game all year, and that was Arizona, I believe, who's the number 1 team in the country, and did they lose by a point?
Shorthanded when they did it.
Shorthanded, and I think they lose by a point or something. Yep. It was a close game. Like, it is incredibly difficult to win college basketball games no matter what. But when every single team is giving you their absolute best shot night in and night out, and you continue to win, I just don't. It's so difficult, and like Creighton, we had 1 year where we were kind of in that category where we felt like every night we were getting everybody's best shot, and it's tiring because you don't get nights off, and even when you're playing the worst team, you're going to get the best game they'll play all year, and so I think for me, looking at their non-conference schedule, which was a buzzsaw of a non-conference. And to come out of that non-conference schedule with 1 loss, it's so impressive. Now, do I understand this conversation lately about nitpicking? Okay, yeah, sure. Like it's easy to look at it and be like, well, we're letting leads slip or we're not blowing teams out. Okay, I get it. All that said, you won the game, and I haven't seen a team that's close to as good as this UConn team is, and so for me, it's Coach Hurley. And I think, again, the expectations, really St. John's was picked, I think, right to win the league.
Yeah.
Or a lot of people did. So they're outpacing St. John's by a pretty good margin. And it's just been really impressive. So I had to give it to Coach Hurley for me.
So I had Hurley at 2. I think meeting expectations, exceeding expectations. But like I said last week, when I compared him to a swanky club with an underlying,
you crushed them last week, and you got him at number 2.
No, I like Hurley. I don't think they're the perfect team that everyone's portraying. That's all I'm really trying. There's an underlying thing, and Mark talks about it all the time, right? And it's nitpicking, and I think Hurley said something right about nitpicking. Yeah. I just think they're not as perfect as everyone says they're perfect. I think they can be beat. I don't think they're far and away the top team. Right now, I think St. John's would give them a game. And Casey open up the show talking about how St. John's is going to get better as the season goes on. This team has not been like, they've been impressive, but they have not been, oh my God, impressive.
Yeah.
And but I will give Hurley, because he's had these expectations. He actually met him. I put Hurley at 2. You put him at 4, Matt.
I didn't want to talk about the number. There was no reason. I thought we weren't saying our individual numbers. There's no reason to do that.
Our 3. I won't tell you who put him at 5th, because those are the unnamed ballots. But that was the lowest.
Look, I after the results from Tuesday night, I'd like to have that vote back and reconnoiter and move them up a slot. Here's my only thing about Dan Hurley. I defended UConn last week. I thought you were way too hard on them. I still think they are going to win the Big East. I think they are a Final Four team. I just think that they have national championship talent. And right now, it's a long season. There are going to be ebbs and flows. You're going to have down nights. They've been through a ton in terms of injury early on. They're still trying to gel. So it's kind of an incomplete is my grade with Danny Hurley right now. I don't think he's had time in the lab with this full group to work his magic, but I also don't think you could say necessarily they're getting better right now. They're just kind of holding and kind of treading water And I didn't love that performance against Georgetown. I thought they played really poorly defensively in the second half against a poor Seton Hall offense, which wasn't necessarily a great sign, not what you expect to see out of a Danny Hurley team. So right now, I put him fourth. I would probably change that to third if I had the opportunity. We'll talk about it in a second. I just think he's had better coaching jobs, and I think he has so much talent. They should be playing better than they are right now. That being said, I think by the end of the year, this is a list of what has happened to this point.
Right.
I think by the end of the year, I would be shocked if Hurley's not 1 or 2 on my list.
Yeah. If we're going to nitpick UConn, first of all, defensively, guys, I don't know if you guys have Ken Palmer or not, but in terms of defensive efficiency, they're in a league of their own in the Big East. They're at 0.95 points per possession defensively. The next is your Seton Hall Pirates, and Seton Hall's over 1 point per possession defensively. That's a huge swing. So defensively, they're an absolute nightmare. Offensively, that's where they've had some struggles. And to me, it's two things. They're turning the ball over way too much, and they don't get to the line enough. Those are two things that I feel like you're going to see change over the last part of this conference season. They will clean up their turnovers, and I do think you'll start to see them get to the free throw line more. Just because I think that's got to be, if you're gonna make a Final Four, I do think you've got to get to the free throw line and get some freebies there. And obviously look, I was never a head coach, far from it, but I know the game a little bit. I know Coach Hurley knows it a lot, and he'll find a way to get that right. But it is interesting to me offensively that they're not where we thought they might be at this point offensively. I mean, they're 5th in the league right now in offensive efficiency. So they get that figured out. It's going to be lights out for anybody outside of, maybe Michigan, Arizona. I do think they're one of the best 4 teams in the country.
I know you've told it before on this network, but tell everybody you're going toe-to-toe with Danny Hurley's story.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is a fun one. I think, we talked about this at dinner. Have you heard this one, Brian? Have I told this on the network?
Maybe.
I think on an Energy Weekly one time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. It's one of my favorite stories, and I'm not the best storyteller, so I'll try my best here. But when I was at Creighton, my job during games was play calls. So Coach Mack's big on identifying what the other team is going to run, and then that was one of my core jobs, and I'd have to call out the action to our team. And so in the first half, you're playing offense on the opposite opposite from your bench. So what that leads to is a lot of play calls being pointed towards you. So I'm sitting there with my notebook, and I try to be sly, and like not be so overt that I'm like, seeing everything. So he's calling plays in, and look, they have 1,000 plays, and their actions are so intricate. It's a nightmare. But he was calling some stuff that I knew well, so I'm standing up and I'm directing our guys like, hey, they're running this, whatever, and we stop them. Next possession down, he calls another play. I see it. I yell to our guys, and that time he saw me, and like kind of caught on to that. I was calling him out. And I kind of knew I kind of knew my stuff a little bit. So next time down there, a couple positions that later, he's going to call a play in, and he looks, and I look, and I try to like be slick, and he looks at me he gave me kind of that, not quite that kind of a look there, but he kind of turned his head, like covered his mouth, and he tries to yell a play in, and then he says, and he calls over his point guard, and again, he's going to say the play. I see it, so I stand up, call it in. So the next time he goes, because what ended up happening is I saw it, but then the PG calls the play, so it defeated the entire purpose. I don't even know if I went into this much detail on the beat show or on the Energy Exchange show, but so it was just Tristan Newton. Tristan calls in the play, so I stand up, whatever. So the next time down, he calls him over again, gives him the play as he's like coming up the court, and he says, "Tristan, do not scream the play in." And so he gave me a look, like smiled, whatever. So after the game, we're walking in the handshake line, and I got to him, and I said, "Good game, coach." And he looked at me and he goes, That was pretty good, wasn't it? And I was like, yeah, Coach, that was pretty good. And he slapped my back and we walked on. I love Coach Hurley. So even though I'm a Creighton guy and Creighton fans hate Dan Hurley, I love him. So anyway, that's my Coach Hurley story.
That's awesome.
Everybody thinks he's a crazy man and a jerk, but it's all competition. That's the moral of the story.
He just wants to win, and he's a good dude. He's a good dude, and he can coach basketball, and his players love him. Like, if his players hated him, I think that would tell you a story, right? There's players don't hate him; they love him, and his staff loves him. So, yeah, I got a lot of respect for him. Heck of a coach.
Great story, great stuff. It's the difference of the person that's been in the arena. All right, we got to pick up the pace here a little bit. We did our top 3. Let's go to number 4. I voted him a little higher. Disappointing Tuesday night, so that's the one I'd like to have back, putting Hurley behind Holtman. But I do think what Holtman has done with this DePaul team, they are limited offensively. He's made them improve. Until the game against Butler, they had been playing outside of UConn and Seton Hall. You could argue by far the best defense in the Big East over the last 6 weeks. And the numbers kind of back that up. They went from, right around the 80s, 90s in defensive efficiency to they had crept right around top 40 in the country there for a little stretch defensively. They're going to tumble back after what they did against Butler, but they have been light years better. And then trying to resurrect a program, you got to love the fact he was buying the students pizza earlier in the year. And then after the huge monumental win at home that had everybody excited, our own Nick from the DePaul had this tweet. For those listening, DePaul coach Chris Holtman said he hasn't had the chance to tell his wife about the credit card bill from buying fans beers, student lunch this weekend. Mrs. Holtman is away for a week with my daughter on a service trip, so I haven't had the chance to tell her yet. We're going to have that receipt sitting for her on the kitchen table when she gets home. We'll see what the reaction is. Let's keep our fingers crossed. There's a guy that's laying it all on the line for his fans. Who knows what that happens in the Holtman family, but he's trying to build energy inside what had been a moribund program, and it feels like he's got real momentum.
Yeah, he definitely has. They've for a decade now, they've been in the bottom 2 in the conference. And I think all 3 of us will agree they won't end up in the bottom 2 in the conference this year. So there's momentum there. It seems like, to steal my show name, good vibes are happening in DePaul and in Chicago. So I had him at 4. Matt, you just said after tonight you probably would have him at 4. I think he's perfectly placed at 4 here. Casey, what about you?
Sorry, guys, I can't do it. I have him at 7.
Yeah. I just looked at the notes. Casey had him at the lowest. The highest that he had was second. That was Matt. So
okay,
you got the highest. Here's
my
right here.
Here's my thing. He is 11, 10. He's they're 8th after the update. Say they're 8th in the league. If you go and look at those rosters, he brought a lot back. Now I know that they're not the DePaul has been in the basement. Like, listen, DePaul was the team for quite a while. That it was just like, let's just roll the balls out. We'll do a running clock if they're good with it, and we'll just get out of here with the win, right? Like they're not beating us. They're definitely not that same team. They're a much better team. I really like Chris Holtman. I think he's a heck of a basketball coach. All that being said, they're still 8th. They're 3-5 in league. They've had some really. I mean, I don't have it pulled up. I should have been more prepared. But they've had some head scratchers that for me are like, is this still DePaul? Like, and I think what happened for me is they had some momentum last year because of the Big East tournament, and so we kind of expected them to take a step, and they have. I'm not saying that they haven't, but when I started doing my rankings and looking at some of these other names and some of these other coaches, I just couldn't get that high with them. I think they've had too many losses that to me are just like head scratchers. Like they lost to, I just pulled it up here. I mean, they lost to, gosh, who was it? LSU. I think they lost
by Buffalo. They did not play well against Buffalo early in the season.
Yeah. Like they just had some early ones that for me were just like, I don't know. So now they're playing much better. Like you can't take that away from them, but tonight was disappointing there. And I was at Hinkle, but I don't know. I think for me, it's just because of the fact that they returned quite a bit. Whereas some of these other guys are playing with brand new teams and I think that matters. So yeah, I know I was low on him. It's not like I said, it's hard for me being a Midwest guy now, but I just can't get up. I can't get up to that number 4 spot with Coach Holtman.
I got a New Englander who's turned into a Southerner and a Southerner who's turned into Midwest nice. That's what we're doing with tonight on Big East Beat. All right, let's talk about the Pittinos. Rick comes in number 5, according to our Big East Energy poll. And then you've got Richard at number 6, 2 very different jobs being done. You know, the funny thing about Rick right now is he might have set the bar low for himself after expectations were so high coming in. A lot of people would have called this season a huge disappointment and docked him lower. But the fact that he maybe changed the starting lineup and they have really learned their lessons from that Providence game and looked like a different team is a big deal for St. John's and for the Big East.
Who's take you, Brian? You want to go?
Yeah, I'll go. I just think Rick's done a good rebound job, really, right? It could have got out of hand really quickly. And Rick's the legend, even though I still rank Hurley above him right now. And I know you guys are both against me on that. But Rick has done a great job, and he proved it again tonight. They figured out a way to win in a game that wasn't their style, and Rick is the legend. And I think he's perfectly placed here at 5. I had him at 6, actually, so it's a little higher for me. But if I did the voting like right before the show, he might be number 5. So I think Rick's done a fine job, and Richard, 6 is the middle, right? So like he's not disappointing me, but he's not impressing me. He's doing what I think he's supposed to be doing at Xavier. Sorry, I said it wrong, Matt. I say it wrong.
There's no X. Just
there's a you can ask Mark. There's a high school in Connecticut that they call them Xavier. So like I've always programmed that way. My bad. But I think Richard has met expectations. He hasn't disappointed. So I think being 6 right in the middle has been perfect for him. What about you, Casey?
Well, so we're doing both. I had Rick at 4, and look, when you look at the metrics, this team, it's impressive. They're the number 1 offensive efficiency team, according to Ken Palm, in our league, and then they're number 3 defensively. So really, really impressive. I loved, to me, what they did in recruiting was really interesting. They were so good defensively, but they were so bad offensively last year. And so what they did, in my opinion, is they went out and got a bunch of offensive basketball players. And that's why I said what I said earlier this year was it was going to take them time to become a really good basketball team, because it takes time to learn to guard in his system. So for them to be number 1 in turnovers, and both offensively and defensively, that's a heck of a job, especially when they really haven't had good point guard play. But yet they're finding a way to take care of the basketball. They're getting to the free throw line. Like, they're doing all the things. They're number 2 in offensive rebounding. Like, they're not only doing the things that require effort and energy, but they're doing the things that require you to be very skilled, to be very well coached, to run offense. And they have, to me, the best player in the league in Zuby. So, it's been very impressive. I put them 4 because, to me, if you would have asked me this 2 weeks ago, I would have had them lower. But I think what they've done over the last couple of weeks, I think he's done I really do. I think he's getting this team rounded into shape, and it's been impressive over the last couple of weeks. So maybe it's a little recency bias for me, but I had him at 4. Where did I have old Rich?
You had him at
5.
Right behind him.
Yeah. And for me, it's similar to what I was saying about Shaw in that in really Holt, or not Holt, or Kevin Willard is, he had to build a brand new team too. And he had New Mexico in the NCAA tournament playing late into the season. So to get that job late and to be able to still put a roster together, and we thought early in the season now, it was, we thought it was going to be a rough year to be a Musketeer, and he's proven otherwise. I think he's doing a good job. I hope he's terrible tonight, which is when this comes out, or really tomorrow night. I hope he does his worst coaching performance of the year tomorrow night. But other than that, I think he's done a really respectable job. I think they are not a team that you can just like again, like kind of like DePaul of old. We just roll the balls out and you're going to win. Like you got to fight Xavier, and they've done some impressive things. So for me, I had him at 5.
I think Rick will end up the season at 2. I really think he's figured this team out. I think they're going to keep getting better and better, and their talent will end up winning out. They had to learn these lessons. It's why he built the roster he did, and I couldn't agree with you more. Richard is overachieving. I had big doubts, or not doubts, but hesitations. I remember Minnesota. I wasn't ready to just kind of wipe out what happened to him.
Totally fair.
At high major, but you know what? He's done a good enough job so far this year that maybe he did learn those lessons in the Mountain West Conference, and he is a different guy now. Good natural segue from you. Let's go 2 more lumps together. 2 guys that have been around for a long time. Thad Matta, what a roller coaster ride it has been for him, and your boy, Greg McDermott. Casey, I'm going to look at you because I don't think anybody would have anticipated seeing Mac at number 8 on a list of Big East coaches for any season. He's just been so incredibly consistent over the course of his career.
Yeah, look, here's what I'll say, okay? And I know I've given a lot of numbers, and I am more of a numbers guy, analytics guy. If you look at offensive efficiency and defensive efficiency, there's 2 teams in the league that are in the top 4 in both, St. John's and Creighton. They are, to me, this Creighton team is better than their record shows. Like we're 5-3. We should be 6-2. There's a saying about uncles and aunts that I won't say on the show, but had we not blown a 17-point lead, we'd be 6-2, and then second place in the league, right, or whatever it is. So I think this team is better than their record really indicates. For me, the disappointing thing is signing Owen Freeman, and hate to be critical like that, but he's been really disappointed. They're not playing him really anymore at all. And to give them the money they gave him,
a lot of money per minute, huh?
A lot of money per minute. Yeah, I would take just 1 minute of that. And to like, basically what they did is they went out and got Josh Dix, who's been very good. They got Owen Freeman. They really spent their money there. And they went out and got some other pieces of Blake Harper and Austin Swartz, right, and Nick Graves. Good pieces. But looking back now, you're like, man, I wish we would have that money that we spent on Owen and got better pieces, than we got. Hindsight's 2020. But from what was happening in the non-con to get beat like we did, and at the time, like the Nebraska loss was devastating and depressing. Now you're looking like, okay, well, Nebraska's number 5 in the country right now. Like, not as bad of a loss as we thought. It's just a rivalry loss.
American coach.
But yeah. But he absolutely can. So I'm higher on Coach. Obviously, I am biased. I'll own that. I had him at 6 for me. But again, this list is interesting because I have him at 6 based on the last few weeks. Now, we had a disappointing one the other night at Providence. It's a really hard place to play. I'm going to make an excuse for my Jays. But I do think that he's done a respectable job with this roster, with having a glaring hole at the 5 spot. I do believe that. And we lost one of our starters early in the season with Jackson McAndrew. That's why I have him middle of the pack. Do I think this is his best coaching performance ever? No, I don't. But I do think he's made some adjustments that your average, like, just basketball fan wouldn't realize. Like starting Ty Davis at the point guard. Ty Davis gives you nothing statistically, but what he does give you is energy, effort. He makes the 50-50 plays. I guess that's maybe a little too much insight, like too much like depth in thinking that through. But he's pulling strings that are making this team better. And that to me is a sign of somebody who's doing a good job, who's clued into their team. And that's why I put him at number 6. And I had Coach Matta at number 8.
The only pushback I'll give you on Mac is, you allude to the analytics. He should be winning more games with the decent analytic numbers that they have. The win-loss record doesn't necessarily correspond with the analytics they have, which, you could point to is, not representative of jobs that he has done in the past. And then the other thing that kind of would point to is the fact that, I said it to you via comment in your last live show. This team is so wildly unpredictable. I mean, I think I made the analogy of a daytime soap opera. The twists and turns of the season, you don't know what's going to come next, but it's almost always going to be some kind of an inexplicable thing. And that's something that you're just not used to seeing from Greg McDermott teams. It's not representative of who he is as a coach, but it's the way the season has worked out this year. That's why I had him down a little bit. Brian, want to talk about that a little bit, though, real quick. It's been a roller coaster ride for him. He comes in at number 7. That was a big win. I know it's DePaul, but considering the fact that they've strung together a couple now after it looked like they were dead and buried and had the big non-conference.
Yeah, so I had him the highest, actually. I had him at 5. I'm the reason why he's actually ahead of McDermott, actually. If I had him at 6,
go figure.
McDermott would have, yeah. So I just, and they could be recently biased also, watching Seton Hall play Butler, but they've recovered a little bit after. If you look at their Big East schedule, they played UConn, they played Creighton, they played Villanova. They've beaten who they needed to beat. They beat the middle of the pack. So they had the impressive win against Virginia, which looks like a great win right now. I just think Thad's done a pretty good job here. A lot of people predicted them. I had them 11th at the beginning of the season. I love Ajay. Bizjak's my favorite non-Seton Hall player in the conference to watch. And I think he's done a respectable job, and that's the reason why I put him at 7. And honestly, if I voted tonight before the show, he probably would be 6 or 5 for me. I just think he's done a decent job.
Can't say it wasn't a good second half adjustment, especially for a guy that we've all been kind of wondering how interested is he? How much energy does that program have? Second straight year, they had a big non-conference and a slow start to Big East play. But this time, it seems like maybe he's right of the ship. We'll see how it plays out. But that was a huge one against DePaul on Tuesday night. All right, 9 and 10. Well, they didn't even get to 10. It's only fitting, right, that Kim English and Ed Cooley would end up lumped together?
Yeah, it's crazy. When I was doing the math, I was like, man, I had to redo the math, and now all I was doing is adding 1s, 2s, 3s, 11s. Like, it wasn't difficult math, but I was like, man,
did I mess up on this? Figure it out.
What's that?
Take your shoes and socks off to figure it out.
I did. But I have Ed Cooley at 12, so I have him as doing the worst job because the way they started off the season, it seems like it's falling apart a little there. Every game you watch them, they play 35 minutes. He should extend practice by 5 more minutes every single day, so they know that they have to play those extra 5 minutes. Cooley, and this is the difference in my eyes. Kim's never really won, right? So I think he may be over his head, and that might be a fair assessment there. But Ed Cooley has won, and the way they started, and now it seems like it's falling apart. I just put him lower. Like, he's disappointing me more. They bring in KJ Lewis from Arizona. They bring in all these guys, and it's disappointing. And especially after watching Bleeding Blue and Gray, they were tooting all the horns right at the beginning of the season, and it's disappointing because I want the Georgetown brand to be very good in the conference, and maybe it's a little personal here on the 11th, but I had him 11th while I had Kim at 9. So,
I mean, yeah, this one really is splitting hairs. And you said you had Cooley last. I get it. I think you can make the argument for these two, and then obviously the one left is Shaka. I think this could be a 3-way tie for last. But I think for different reasons. And, for Shaka, it's more what he did before the season started. But, for Coach English, like, I think they're as much of a roller coaster as anybody in this league, because there's nights where they come out and they're really good, and then there's other nights where they're awful. They're to me pretty good against Creighton the other night. They had that comeback against St. John's. They put UConn to overtime, and then they go and they lose to Marquette. So I don't know. It's such a weird team. There's so much inconsistency, and you do have to put some of that on the head coach, because the head coach, that's one of their jobs. Is like Mac had an interview today, and he said, when you're putting players in the game, you just want to put players in that you know what you're going to get. I honestly don't know if these two coaches know what they're going to get from their team. And so I think having them at 9 and 10 is fair. Like Cooley's Cooley's a little bit different, and I do have some bias that I have to acknowledge that I am a Ed Cooley guy. I really respect Ed and I like him as a person, and so it's sometimes hard for me to get past that and be super negative with him. But we're at a point now where they're 9-9, they're 1-6 in conference. This is a team that a lot of people thought could finish fourth or so in the conference and make the NCAA tournament. And in their non-conference play, they had some wins that you're like, all right, yeah, this team could be pretty good, and they've just been terrible. And the team looks uninspired. If you look at the metrics, there's nothing really to hang your hat on. And so, I think it's fair to. I think I did have Ed at 9 and Kim at 10. I made that late switch there, Brian, after that loss by Providence.
Just seems to me that Providence roster has more upside. Now, his inability to have success on the road still puzzles me. I understand how good an atmosphere Providence is, but man, they have struggled for years, even when they're good on the road. I said it coming into the year, Georgetown just doesn't have enough shooters. To me, in this era of college basketball, it is so hard to win when you watch an offense and you kind of scratch your head of how are they going to put the ball in the basket. Now, the concerning thing, if you're a Hoya fan, is on the nights when they do shoot the ball, they're still not winning. That's not great. It's rare. They're few and far between, but they've had a couple nights where they're making shots and they're still losing games. That one's hard to figure. They're still competing, though. I went Cooley ahead of English because of that effort against UConn. To me, that's a good sign that his team haven't white flagged it yet. I'm hoping they white flag it tonight against Villanova because I'd like my son to have a positive first experience in his first game, but we'll see. That's how I thought. And then last, Shaka, golly gee, it's just the one thing he has been good at over the course of his career is winning in the regular season, and the bottom finally fell out on that from him this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, you guys know I'm not going to come out here and say a ton of great things there. I think he's a good basketball coach. I've had like a switch in my mentality on what he's doing from a recruiting standpoint. It'll be really interesting to see if they can retain this roster for at least who they want to retain for next year. Because when you start looking at the math of how much returners cost versus going out and getting a transfer, he could be playing the long game and it could come back to really help him versus buying a brand new roster every year. It'll be interesting to see, but this year it's been really, really bad. Offensively they're 9th and defensively they're 9th. So it's just been bad. It's just been really bad. They've won 2 games in league. And there's just nothing that you can say about this team that makes you feel positive that they can put a run together and get some confidence for the Big East tournament. They seem to be headed for the first game at MSG, and if I'm a Marquette fan, I'm probably not even coming. So it could be pretty rough for them.
Everyone's talking about Marquette but they're having the same record as Providence. They're 1 game ahead of Georgetown. You guys make it sound like it's a complete dumpster fire, and I just feel like he's developing guys. Nigel James,
Brian, you know what? I think that's fair. I'm going to tell you what. I think that's a fair point. I really do. I
don't think it's as bad. Yes, the non-con was very bad, but I don't think it's as bad. If he's developing guys, they're getting better, right? They're competing just like Georgetown and Providence in the conference.
Who stands out to you, though, that's improved the most? That's I hear what you guys are saying. The concept of it sounds great. I just don't see the development.
Nigel James is a point guard, and he's a freshman. Ben Gold has had moments. Parham's had moments, but are there stars? Maybe not, and maybe that's where he's missing, right? Maybe they're just all decent players, and maybe it's another like Seton Hall where no one's going to scare you. We don't know that part, but I like that he's betting on himself, and he's matching what Ed Cooley and Kim English are doing. So I don't think it's as much of a dumpster fire as everyone leads to believe.
But if I go all in with 3 hearts with 2 cards left to go. That's not necessarily a good bet on yourself. That's just this. I just feel like he's got to adjust at this point. And as Casey said, yeah, it's cheaper to keep your own players, but you still got to pay to keep your own players. They need to keep their own players and add pieces. And that's where the math starts to get a little bit more difficult. You better start to see some real progression here fast to me. Like, yes, these guys are obviously going to get better. They are getting better. That was a good win, but they're not getting better to the point where if I'm a Marquette fan, I'm like, boy, I'm excited for next year.
I'm arguing against myself here, so I don't know if that's allowed on this show.
Fair.
But
yeah, there's no rules at Big East Beat.
But I think Brian made a really good point. And it's not.
There's a rule in Big East, but you don't say Brian.
Yeah. Casey,
that's
you
a
watch
rule.
every week.
Come on,
it's Nova versus Hall here, and you have to be very pro Nova and anti Hall.
No. I just this is why I like podcasting. This is why I like talking to guys that I like and talking hoops, because there's different perspectives. And I think when you put it when you compare head to head Marquette, Georgetown, Providence, and then you say, well, Shaka is overwhelmingly last. That to me is a clear sign of my own bias of what Marquette's been versus what they are this year. And really what this list is intended to do is really just evaluate this year. And so if I could make a last minute edit, I probably would edit it, because I will say, I do think they've compared to Georgetown and Providence, where I think you can make the argument they're getting worse. I think Marquette, you can make the argument that they are getting better. And that's always been Shaka's thing, is development. If we go outside of this year and look at the future, I'm really excited to see. I truly am excited to see what they do, because they're doing a really good job on the recruiting trail, and they're in there early with some of these bigger names. It's going to help them fight for some of these bigger names when they're fighting against some of the blue bloods around the country. They might have an early advantage. Is it going to be enough? I don't know. But if you fast forward a year and Marquette's in that middle of the pack towards that upper part of the league, you can start to make the case for Shaka that he's betting on himself and he's winning. But I think that the hard part is our expectations, and none of us are Marquette fans, but our expectations are that for them to be really good, and they're not. Think about what Marquette fans are dealing with. They want to win the league now. They're spoiled. Same as Creighton fans. They're spoiled rotten. So that to me is a lot of what we're dealing with, is just the fact that they've been so good for so long and now they're not.
Well,
Matt, go ahead, Matt. Go ahead. No?
I was just going to say they did get the win against Providence. That is a sign of improvement. They also got beat by DePaul, which you guys don't think is that good. They got destroyed by St. John's in a game that all Rick Pitino could say was, well, they played hard. They lost to Villanova in a game, quite honestly, as bad as Villanova played, they should have won. They lost to the Hall. They lost bad to Creighton. They lost by double digits.
I'm not saying that he should be 5. I'm not saying he should be 5. I just think he should be this. Shaka should be considered for 9, 10, 11. Like I don't think he's a clear-cut bottom guy. That's
I'd probably still have him last, truthfully. But the gap to me is a much smaller gap than I originally thought. Thanks to you, Brian.
Call him the waffler. Casey, back and forth. He went back and forth on that argument. All right, Brian, put up.
If you argue with yourself, you can win. That's the whole point.
That's how I win marriage or arguments in my marriage. That's the only way. I just turned on myself. That's what I do. All right, Brian, put on the screen all of our lists. And as you look at our list real quick, I want to go through who in your mind had the biggest disparity from what they are overall in your mind as a coach, whole picture, to what they've done so far this year.
I know where this is going.
Go ahead, Casey. You're the guest.
No, you said you, Brian. You said you.
Oh, then I got to go to mine. It's
Mac. Sorry, we can all say it. It's Mac. It's a testament to how good Mac has been. But you
talked about the analytics. You kind of sold, like Matt kind of made a perfect point. Is the analytics? If this team is performing well, then they should be winning. And are they 5-3 in the conference? They're 5-3 in the conference. So maybe they're not that far off. But it hasn't been the typical Creighton. And I think that's That's the biggest gap there.
I just offer you guys, they lost at Providence, which we all, I think, would say is the hardest place to play in the league. They lost to St. John's, and they lost to Seton Hall when the game they were up by 17. And you know what? I'll just go ahead and say it. For stretches of that game, it was 8-on-5. So, I'm just
so
saying.
Glad we got that in. I was waiting for this moment. I'm surprised it took an hour and a half to get into that.
I hate doing it. I hate talking about referees. If the referees are impacting the game, then you're just not good enough. But that was brutal that night. And I'll never forgive you for that, Brian, because I feel like you called it a favorite. But that game, to me, if Creighton 6-2, are you guys saying the same thing?
No, but I'm much more aggrieved by the way they lost to Providence. I just that wasn't great. Can we agree on that?
At Providence, like that's a really
not
hard
a good
place
Providence team. Other teams are beating Providence at Providence this year,
including Seton Hall.
I look here's my counter also here's my counter to that though. At a certain point, like if they did this, if they didn't do that,
no question. That's why I said
17-point lead against Seton Hall. You can't blow a 17-point lead. Yeah, the officials made some bad calls down the stretch. It was the blowing of the 17-point lead that was the killer. Great win at Villanova. There are flashes that this team is good enough. And again, you said the golden words earlier. We put this all on coaching. We've dragged you into the gutter with us media folk, but there is way more that goes into this than just the simple of, hey, the coaching's been poor. There's stuff behind the scenes going on that even as keyed in as you are with that coaching staff, talking to them every day, we just don't know about when you're not truly inside that. You would understand that better than anybody, but our job is to evaluate what we can see, what we know, try to study as best we can. And based off of what we have seen and all the benefit of the doubt that Mac has earned, and the reason why we thought they would be good, they just, to me, that benefit of the doubt didn't come to fruition this year. They just haven't been what I thought they would be. Yeah. By the way, Brian, I thought you were going to say Rick, because you got Rick 6, and there's no way Rick historically on this list would be 6th among coaches.
I guess.
Well, no, in my mind, Brian's list.
No, in my mind, I already changed Rick to go up after tonight. So I didn't look at the number, and I thought you were implying just to go after Mac. But here's the thing about Mac. I had them second in the conference. I thought St. John's would be slow, and I thought they would be very competitive. There's no way they're finishing second. So they are disappointing to me personally on this season. And especially when you talk about analytically how they're performing, they should be higher up. But
all right, let's put Casey on the spot. Who's his?
So just make sure I understand your question is on my list of this ranking versus who they are historically.
Yeah. Who do you think has been furthest off from what they are in the big picture of their career?
Be Rick. It's got to be Rick or Mac.
No, I'm actually going to say Cooley.
That's fair. That's a fair argument.
I think Ed's a really good basketball coach. I think he's still figuring out what it's going to take to win at Georgetown, and I think it's going to be different than what it took to win at Providence. And so for me, it's him. He just doesn't seem to have a feel for this team, and I feel like the old Providence teams that were so good, man, he could push the right buttons every night, and he's just not able to find the right ones on this team. So that's why I have him there. Like Rick, do I think Rick Pitino is the best coach in this league? Like historically, yes, I really do. And you guys should do a show and have me on there for that show, because I'd love to debate you on this one, Brian. And if we can get Mark on, but is Coach Hurley the best coach in the league right now? Yes, but historically, yes, Rick is to me the best. He's not. To me, this isn't disappointing. So they're second in the league. I just don't think it's that big of a. I don't think it's that big of a difference. And Mac, maybe it is some of my bias, but I think he's pushing some buttons, man. That this team, and you look at this roster, it's got no business being even 5-3. So from some of their deficiencies, and I think that they're 5-3 because of Mac, and because he's pushing some of the right buttons. So, yeah, I'm not low on Mac at all. And as the president of the Greg McDermott fan club, you're not allowed to be, but but I still trying to be, as fair as I can be. I'm not disappointed in any way. I don't know what. Go ahead, Matt.
To me, I actually totally hear what you're saying. I agree. I think your point for Cooley is a very good one. You actually swayed me a little to at least think about it. And I just think this is a testament to how highly I regard Mac. I really did think that I thought he would be now, granted, Owen Freeman was more injured than I thought he was coming in. They weren't planning on that second injury. And that kind of took them out of the opportunity to work with him in the summer. He should be further along now. That's a disappointment to me. That misevaluation, it goes into, I understand, he's still a piece on this team. They missed on what they thought he would be. That is the difference for them right now. And that is part of coaching in this day and age. And then we'll see how the rest of the season goes. I just really thought in this Big East too, this is not the deepest league. I mean, for Kevin Willard to take over, lose all but 9% of his scoring, and to be pretty clearly the third best team in the Big East right now, is as flawed as Villanova is in some spots. Like, to me, there's no reason that Creighton can't be in that same spot, and they're just not, even though they beat Villanova head to head. All right, let's go. Comment of the week. Let's look at
Comment of the week. Mike Gianta, 4-5-6-0. He's done this before. He's taken our theme and turned it into a UConn. It might be Mark Zanetto's burner account, but he always enjoys the imagination you guys bring to our shared Big East session. After listening to the show, I'm headed out to grab a world-class microbrew at the Dog Pound Brewery in Sophisticated Stores, Connecticut. That's an oxymoron. And on to Dan Hurley and his staff are the best in the business, having won multiple gold medals and drawing the best talent in the land to hone their 5-star craft. You had better get us now, as the top-rated IPA, stouts, amber ales, and sours sell out quickly. Comment
Very
of the week.
creative comment. Very creative comment.
It's a great one. He did the real estate one too, and I just think he's maybe in the offseason, Mike Gianta needs to come on and share his creative genius. But Casey,
I was partial to the guy that. Hold on, I was partial to the guy that ripped you for your UConn hate. I just want to put that on the record.
I wasn't going to do that.
David's not here.
David's not here. So I'm not going to put a comment that goes against our show. When David's not here, we got to make it look like it's an appeasing show.
Hey, how cool is it though when people just take the time and make comments on their shows? Like, some of them are stupid. I'll just have to say it, but for the most part, people, man, I just love it. It really means a lot to us on our shows. I know it does to you guys too. So this is really, really cool.
And
I love when they get creative.
Before, hey, we'll take any comment.
So, Brian, what were you going to ask me?
You saw our episode last week about the bar. Give me the bar type for Creighton real quick. Because we went with the same old, but after having this power ranking here with the coaches and everything, is it the same old? Like, is it? You know what you're going to get, because we ranked them pretty low.
This year only.
Did we do it just this year? I don't remember.
Yeah, it was this year.
Yeah, it was just this year.
Yeah. I mean, I think this team is they're a bar where you could go in, sit down at the bar, kind of recognize some people. Some of the people they're gonna know your name, so to speak. But you go to order your beer, and the keg's out. And the barback's got to go back there and fill it up, and then it's like they pour it for you, and there's just too much foam.
Yep.
They pour that one out, and then they give you another one, and it's perfect. And it's the beer that you've wanted, but it just was 15, 20 minutes too late. The food, for the most part, pretty good. You've got your reliable, you got your reliable meals. You know what Jason Green's going to give you. So you can order the burger and fries, and it's going to hit every single time. But there's just some nights where you don't want a burger and fries. You want something better, and you just can't find it on the menu. So I don't know what you call that bar, but it's I don't know. You got to fill in the blanks for me there, because I wasn't prepared for this one.
You know what I think Creighton's bar is? They're the Cheers, but not Cheers from the TV show. They're the Cheers that you go to in Boston that is supposed to be cheers, where you're like, I thought this was going to be the bar like with Norm at the corner and Cliff, and it's just a regular bar. It's not the same.
But it's still a bar that
it's overpriced.
Okay, I don't know about that one, Brian, but there's still a bar that if your buddy's coming to town, like, hey, let's go grab a beer, like you're still taking them to that bar.
They
trust them
enough. Serve alcohol. I'll give you that. They serve
you trust
alcohol.
them enough that like you're going to be able to have a good time. It's going to be a good experience. I heard it, Brian. But look, I'm a Jays guy. You guys know that it's tough. I'm stretching myself thin already, trying to think of anything that's not positive for my squad. So
though, if there is a team that has struggled this year that could make a run second half of the year, I still think Creighton's the team.
Yeah.
And struggled. I mean, I know it's a liberal term. They're not that bad in the standings, but overall, it hasn't been what you expected. They could catch fire down the stretch. I just don't know if
they've got it. Well, they've got to do that. They've got to catch fire. They've got to hit shots. They're very one-dimensional right now. So if we're not shooting well from the perimeter, it's a bad night.
All right, Casey, pick one game this week that you're looking forward to most.
Shoot, I had this pulled up, guys.
I'll give you the three big ones. Nova, UConn, St. John's, Xavier, and
St. John's
Xavier, and Providence and Georgetown.
No, I actually am going to go away from all those. I don't think you said this one. The one I'm really excited to watch is Seton Hall DePaul.
Wow.
That to me, that to me is the game, because like Georgetown, Providence, unless you're a fan of one of those teams, who cares? St. John's probably going to smack Xavier. Villanova, UConn, like I see the draw there for sure, but to me, Seton Hall DePaul has a bigger impact on like the league than, I don't know. It doesn't though. I'm here. I am again waffling. I just am more excited for that game than I am for Villanova UConn. I do think UConn is head and shoulders above the rest of the league, and so at home, I don't see that one being a great game. Whereas I think Seton Hall at DePaul could be a really, really good game.
There's nothing Villanova's done that makes me think they're ready for that test yet. Maybe they will. That's the beauty of the war. You roll the balls out and figure it out, but there's nothing they've done. I had that stupid Seton Hall DePaul game circled for weeks. I thought that was going to be a huge party in Chicago, big deal. And then Tuesday night happened. Talk about letting some of the air out of the balloon. We'll see how that all unfolds.
It'll still be a good environment though, and it's a 5:00 game. It'll be a good environment.
Thought it was a coming out party for DePaul. Remember, I'm the guy that picked them fifth in the preseason. So I've been cashing a lot of DePaul checks that are about to bounce if they don't start stringing together some of these wins. All right, Casey, this is the most unique part of our show. David's pondering thought. He wasn't with us here today, but he's going to give you a unique slither of his mind, and just we'll let you respond to it.
Hi, guys. I really think y'all think I'm joking when I say that my wife and I literally argue about these stupid pondering thoughts, but we just probably had a 5-minute discussion on the superior nut again because I told her about David's pondering thought, and we argued back and forth if superiority included versatility, and then it devolved into a discussion of a team with a good offense and a team with a good defense and a team that had a good offense and a good defense. I don't know how this happened. But anyway, for tonight, I want to know if let's say you're just driving through the woods, because this happened. We were driving in the mountains and we passed by this seemingly abandoned house. Would you go explore that house? If you thought that was an abandoned house, would you go in there to look around just to see what was going on in there? That I really want to know everybody's answer to this one.
Wow. That is, my God, David. So first of all, I must have missed this. The superior nut was one of his pondering thoughts. I definitely missed that. And who won? Which nut was superior?
We didn't declare a winner. He went with almond, didn't he, or cashew?
I went with cashew.
Cashew, yeah.
He went with almond because he thought it was the most versatile. You can cook with it, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. It's I'm a big fan.
These
of
are real
nuts.
conversations he has with his wife. I can back him up on that, by the way, too. I've hung out with him before. Lovely woman. Very much enjoy the whites. They do have they got some conversations, man.
Yeah, he's a pretty. Yeah, they must be. Their house is very different than mine. But I would have to say the Brazil nut would be my pick. By the way,
very good.
Would I go into it? No. Like, what are you doing if you say yes to this? Like, Brian's the only guy I know that I think maybe could say yes to this. No chance.
Where is it and how old am I? That's the question I got to answer first.
Today,
if I'm 20 today, probably not. Do I have the kids in the car? Probably not.
Well, if you have the kids in the car, you're going to jail. Let's just say you're driving alone by yourself.
Well, he said he was driving in the mountains with his wife, so I figured he had the kids in the car. I'm not going in there. I'm 42 years old. I'm not going in there. Not at all.
No one's going in there other than David White. I mean, and David White will tell you that he's not living.
22-year-old Brian Mike.
Yeah, that's a different discussion. When I was in Asheville, we had this old hospital that it was a mental hospital. It's like perfect like story. There should be a movie that was like shut down and boarded up, and we would go in there as teenagers and flashlights at night, and it was super creepy. But there's no chance I'm doing that now. Scared out of my mind.
Real quick, going back to last week, David had, if you could go back in time and relive one day from your past, you don't know what day it's going to be. Could be good, could be bad. Would you do it?
With no butterfly effect. With no
I did see this one. You don't know which day it's going to be?
Don't know. Like, I just don't see the point. Unless you're living a much better life than I am. Like, the only reason would be the chance to go see somebody you've lost.
Yeah. But it literally could be yesterday. I mean, you don't. Yeah,
be a day in the office. My point was 95% chance it's gonna be a Monday day because that's most of my days.
For sure, it could be a really, somebody died that day, and you just have to deal with that again. Like that's no. Yeah, no. Unless you could give me some odds on it's going to be this day or that. Yeah, I'm not doing that either. Like you said, there's no point.
David says you're not living.
I can't believe I caught.
Brian, you muted yourself, pal. There he is.
From Casey. I can't believe, like, I would jump in the house. Like, I'm the first thought that you think.
I thought you would. I just thought
you common sense. That's what Casey's saying.
No, you're a Seton Hall guy. Like, you're a Shaw guy. Like, that's toughness. It's, you know what I mean? I just thought that'd be you.
Well, okay. I appreciate that now that you put it that way.
All right. That's enough. Casey's buttered up to Brian enough. Casey, 100-minute plus show, and we enjoyed every second of it. We appreciate lingering in with us. That was good times.
Awesome. Had so much fun, guys. Look forward to next time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we would definitely have you back. That'll do it for this edition of Big E's Beat. We will be back next week. Make sure that you like the videos, comment if you have any thoughts below. You might make the episode. And, of course, subscribe if you haven't already to the Big East Energy Network. Our thanks to Home Field Apparel for their support. For Casey and Brian, I'm Matt Jennis. Have a great night.